What if I told you that everything you've believed about the true identity of God's chosen people might be completely wrong? What if the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the very people who have been lost in history scattered across the earth, are not who you've been taught? Imagine the truth that has been hidden for centuries, right under our noses, waiting to be uncovered. Could the Black Hebrew Israelites, the people who were stolen from their homeland and sold into slavery, be the very bloodline of the ancient Israelites? This revelation could change everything we thought we knew about history, identity, and prophecy. You may ask, why does this matter now? Why is it only in recent times that the truth about the Black Hebrew Israelites and their divine heritage is emerging? Is there something greater at play? Something that has been concealed for hundreds of years? How are the pieces of the puzzle, prophecy, history, DNA, and faith, coming together in such an unexpected way? Is it possible that the regathering of God's people, as prophesied in the Bible, is unfolding right now, and we are witnessing it? In this video, we will explore a truth that many have avoided, a story of identity and divine fulfillment that stretches back thousands of years. We will dive deep into the heart of biblical prophecy and discover how the Black Hebrew Israelites are not just a spiritual movement, but a part of a larger, divinely orchestrated plan. You'll learn about the connections between African-descended peoples and ancient Israel, about prophecies that are coming true right before our eyes, and about the mysterious role that Iran plays in the end-time events. The truth is, this is more than just a religious debate. This is about the divine regathering of God's people, fulfilling promises made long ago. It's about reclaiming lost identity and stepping into the light of God's eternal promises. The question now is, are we ready to face the truth? Are we prepared for the awakening of God's people, not just spiritually but physically and historically, as these ancient prophecies come to life? If you feel this video is awakening something within you, a part of you that has been dormant, if it resonates with your soul or sheds light on what has been hidden for so long, I ask you to take a moment and support the movement we are building here. This journey of discovering truth, healing, and reclaiming identity needs your energy to keep spreading the message. Your support, no matter how small, helps continue this divine work, shining light on the profound truths of our shared faith. Like, subscribe, and share this video with others who may also need to hear this message. Together we can uncover the hidden pieces of God's great plan, one revelation at a time. When we consider the journey of the Black Hebrew Israelites, we must first ask, how did this identity, this profound connection to the ancient Israelites, get lost in the first place? Was it always hidden, or has it been concealed by forces outside their control? What if the key to understanding the Black Hebrew Israelite movement lies in the stories and prophecies of the Bible that have been misinterpreted for centuries? Could it be that God's people, scattered across the world, have remained in plain sight all along, only to now emerge in the fullness of time? The story of the Black Hebrew Israelites is one of divine promise, a promise of restoration, identity, and awakening. We've all heard of Israel as a people, but what if the true Israel, the scattered children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, aren't the ones we've always thought they were? This journey of rediscovery begins with understanding that the Black Hebrew Israelites are not just reclaiming their spiritual heritage, they are finding their true place in God's divine plan. Let's take a moment to dive deeper into what the Bible says about God's chosen people. The Bible is full of promises, prophecies, and divine declarations, and one of the most powerful prophecies is that God will gather his people from the ends of the earth in the last days. This regathering is not just a physical one, but a spiritual awakening of God's chosen people. It's about restoring what was lost and bringing God's promises into the light once again. Could it be that the Black Hebrew Israelites, as they awaken to their true identity, are part of this very prophecy? Take the example of Deuteronomy 28:68, where God warns the Israelites of being taken into slavery by ships. This prophecy, often tied to the destruction of Jerusalem, has been seen as a reference to the transatlantic slave trade. For many in the Black Hebrew Israelite community, this prophecy speaks directly to their ancestors' plight. They argue that the connection between this biblical prophecy and the African slave trade is undeniable. In the same way, God's promises of liberation and restoration are not just for the ancient Israelites. They are for their descendants who have suffered in bondage and who now, in these final days, are called to awaken to their true identity. The awakening is not just a spiritual one, but a collective movement that includes the rediscovery of heritage, the affirmation of identity, and the acknowledgement of God's eternal promises. As more Black Hebrews step into the fullness of their identity, it becomes clear that this isn't just about reclaiming the past, it's about shaping the future. The Bible teaches us that the true Israel is a people who are scattered across the globe, and their awakening will signal the fulfillment of divine promises. And this awakening is happening now, before our very eyes. But where does this journey take us? What does the Bible say about the geopolitical implications of this awakening? To understand that, we need to examine the role that Iran, once Persia, plays in the biblical prophecies of the last days. The Bible describes a time when nations will rise against Israel, and Persia, modern-day Iran, is named specifically in the prophecies of Ezekiel 38. These prophecies speak of a great coalition of nations, led by Persia, coming against Israel. The significance of this prophecy cannot be overlooked. In our time, Iran's growing influence in the Middle East and its antagonistic stance toward Israel seem to align directly with what the Bible predicted. Iran's role is clear. It will be part of a larger coalition of nations that will challenge Israel in the final battle. But what does this mean for the Black Hebrew Israelites? How does their awakening fit into this prophetic narrative? As the Black Hebrew Israelites awaken to their true identity, it becomes evident that this isn't just a personal or national movement. It is part of a larger spiritual story that is unfolding across the globe. Their awakening is tied to the divine regathering of God's people, a gathering that extends far beyond the boundaries of Israel. This is a story of people scattered across continents, returning to their identity, fulfilling prophecies, and ultimately becoming part of God's grand plan for the world. But how does Iran fit into this larger story? Iran's role in biblical prophecy as a key player in the final battle against Israel raises an important question. Is the geopolitical situation we see unfolding today a reflection of God's divine timing? Could it be that the conflicts we are witnessing are part of a larger spiritual narrative, one that has been written in the Bible, but only now in these final days is becoming clear? The Black Hebrew Israelites are part of that larger plan, and their awakening is tied to the fulfillment of these prophecies. Just as Iran is moving toward its prophetic destiny, so too are the Black Hebrew Israelites. But it's not just about the conflicts in the Middle East. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is a spiritual movement, a reminder to all of us that God's promises are for everyone. The Bible teaches us that God's covenant is not limited to a particular group or ethnicity. It is open to all who believe. Just as God's chosen people have been scattered, so too has His grace extended to all corners of the earth. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is a call to us all to recognize our place in God's plan, to embrace our true identity, and to fulfill our divine purpose. This journey is not just for the Black Hebrew Israelites. It is a journey for all of us. As we witness the regathering of God's people, we must ask ourselves, are we ready to embrace the fullness of God's plan? Are we prepared to accept the truth of our identity, to step into our divine purpose, and to walk in the light of His promises? Just as God promised to restore Israel, He has promised to restore His people, wherever they may be, and to bring us together in unity and faith. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is not just about one group of people. It is about all of us. It is about reclaiming what was lost, embracing our true identities, and stepping into the fullness of God's plan for humanity. As we continue on this journey, we must remember that we are all part of the same divine story. The Bible calls us to love one another, to embrace the diversity of God's people, and to come together as one body in Christ. The regathering of Israel is not just about a specific people or a specific land. It is about the fulfillment of God's eternal plan, a plan that includes all of us. As we close today, we must reflect on the powerful truth that has been revealed. The Black Hebrew Israelites are part of God's divine plan, fulfilling prophecies that were written long ago. Their awakening is a testament to God's faithfulness and His promise to restore His people. And as they find their way back to their true identity, they are not just reclaiming the past, they are stepping into the future that God has prepared for them and for all of us. Let us walk this journey together, embracing the fullness of God's plan, recognizing that His promises are true and that we are all part of His divine story. As we reflect on the regathering of God's people, may we be inspired to live out our own divine purpose, to love one another, and to walk in the light of God's eternal promises. As we delve deeper into the awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites, it's essential to recognize that this is not just a journey of self-discovery. It's a spiritual and prophetic awakening, part of a much larger divine narrative that spans the ages. Imagine a story that has been buried under centuries of silence and suffering, a story that has been hidden away, waiting to be reclaimed. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is not just a return to identity, it's the unfolding of God's promises, which were written long ago, but only now are becoming clear to those who have been waiting. The power of this awakening can be found in the stories that have shaped the lives of those who have come before us and those who continue to walk this path today. Imagine the thousands of years of oppression, exile, and struggle that have formed the foundation of a people's identity. From the time of the transatlantic slave trade to the struggles faced in America and across the globe, the journey of the Black Hebrew Israelites is one of deep pain, but also profound hope. This journey speaks to the human condition, the longing for justice, the need for recognition, and the cry for understanding. In this story, the Israelites, scattered across the world, were promised a return, a regathering in the last days, a coming home to their true identity. The Black Hebrew Israelites, having been torn from their ancestral land and dispersed through slavery and colonization, are now discovering that they are part of that divine plan. The Bible is clear about God's promises to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These promises are not just about the past. They are alive in the present, unfolding in real time. As we look at the Black Hebrew Israelites, we cannot ignore the parallels between their journey and the stories we find in the Bible. The Israelites of old were taken into slavery in Egypt. They endured years of suffering and longing, but God never abandoned them. He heard their cries and, in His perfect timing, He delivered them. Today, the Black Hebrew Israelites are reclaiming their own history, a history marked by pain, but also by the hope of redemption. Their awakening is part of that promise, a promise of liberation, restoration, and divine fulfillment. The spiritual aspect of this awakening is deeply connected to the prophetic scriptures. Just as God promised to regather His people from the four corners of the earth, so too are we seeing this prophecy fulfilled in our time. As the Black Hebrew Israelites reconnect with their ancient roots, they are also reconnecting with the promises that were made to their ancestors. The process is not only about recognizing their identity as the true descendants of Israel, it is about understanding the fullness of God's plan for their lives and for the world. We can see this unfolding in the lives of individuals within the movement. Take, for instance, the example of Frank Cherry and William Saunders Crowley in the late 1800s. These men received what they believed to be divine revelations about the true identity of African Americans as the descendants of ancient Israel. The teachings they began to spread marked the beginning of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, one that would grow and develop through the 20th century. What began as a small spiritual awakening has become a powerful movement, with thousands of people across the world now identifying as Black Hebrew Israelites. But the journey is not without its challenges. Just as the Israelites faced resistance when they sought to reclaim their land and their identity, the Black Hebrew Israelites face resistance today. There are those who challenge their beliefs, who claim that the connection between African Americans and ancient Israel is nothing more than a myth. Yet the undeniable truth remains. This movement is not just about belief, it is about a profound spiritual truth that resonates deep within the souls of those who have been awakened. The Black Hebrew Israelites are not only reclaiming their heritage, they are stepping into the fullness of the promises made to their forefathers. This awakening is not just about spiritual fulfillment, it has practical implications as well. The Black Hebrew Israelites are not just rediscovering their identity, they are also reclaiming the rights that have been denied to them for centuries. They are returning to a way of life that aligns with the biblical laws and teachings that were part of their ancestral heritage. By following the commandments and principles laid out in the Torah, they are stepping into the fullness of their identity as God's chosen people. As we explore the historical and prophetic significance of this movement, we must also acknowledge the broader implications for our world today. The Bible tells us that in the last days, the nations will come against Israel. The political climate in the Middle East, particularly with Iran's growing influence, seems to align with this prophecy. Iran's role as a member of the coalition of nations that will rise against Israel in the final battle is made clear in Ezekiel 38. But what does this mean for the Black Hebrew Israelites? How does their awakening connect with these end-time prophecies? The answer lies in understanding that the fulfillment of prophecy is not just a political event, it is a spiritual one. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is part of the larger regathering of God's people. Just as Israel in the Bible was regathered from the nations, so too are the descendants of Abraham being regathered today. Iran's role in these prophecies and the conflicts that surround Israel serve as a backdrop to the spiritual awakening that is taking place. It is a reminder that God's plan is unfolding before our very eyes, and the awakening of His people is a sign that His promises are coming to pass. We are witnessing a powerful movement of divine restoration, a movement that transcends national borders, ethnic divisions, and political ideologies. The Black Hebrew Israelites are not just reclaiming their identity, they are fulfilling a prophecy that has been waiting to be realized for thousands of years. This is not just about returning to their heritage, it is about embracing the fullness of God's promise for their lives and for the world. As we watch these events unfold, it is crucial to remember that the Black Hebrew Israelites are not the only ones called to this awakening. All of us, regardless of our background or ethnicity, are invited to embrace the fullness of God's plan. The Bible teaches us that God's promises extend beyond Israel. They are for all who believe. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is a call to all of us to awaken to the truth of our identity, to recognize the divine purpose in our lives, and to step into the light of God's eternal promises. This awakening is not just about one group of people, it is about all of us. It is about recognizing that we are all part of God's divine plan, and that His promises are for all who believe. The Black Hebrew Israelites are part of this great awakening, but so are we. Together, we are called to walk in the light of God's love, to embrace our true identity, and to fulfill the purpose that He has set before us. As we move forward, Let us keep our hearts open to the truth that is being revealed. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is a powerful reminder that God's promises are true and that they will come to pass. It is a call to all of us to embrace our divine heritage, to reclaim our identity, and to walk in the fullness of God's plan for our lives. As we continue to witness the unfolding of these prophecies, may we be inspired to live with purpose, to love one another, and to walk in the light of God's everlasting love. The regathering of God's people, as prophesied in the Bible, has long been a mystery to many. But now, as the Black Hebrew Israelites reclaim their true identity, we begin to see how God's plan for his people unfolds in ways that we could never have imagined. The restoration of Israel is not a singular event, isolated in time. It is an ongoing, divine movement, intricately woven into the fabric of history, and it includes everyone who has been scattered, those who have long been oppressed, forgotten, and ignored. Imagine the story of the Israelites as they wandered in the wilderness, longing for their promised land, struggling through trials and tribulations. They were scattered across nations, exiled, yet God had promised them a return. For years, the world saw only their oppression, their suffering, and their silence. But the Bible tells us that in the last days, God would gather his people from all corners of the earth, restoring them to their inheritance. What if that promise has been unfolding right now under our noses? What if the Black Hebrew Israelites, the people who endured centuries of enslavement and hardship, are not only a part of this prophecy, but are leading the way for all of us to understand the true depth of God's promise? As they reclaim their identity as the descendants of Israel, they are not just regaining a cultural heritage, they are fulfilling a divine purpose. The Bible speaks of a great return, a regathering of the tribes of Israel. And this is not a mere political or historical event, it is a deeply spiritual one. The moment we begin to recognize the Black Hebrew Israelites as the true descendants of the ancient Hebrews, we also begin to understand the power of restoration. God is not simply restoring their land, he is restoring their spirits, their identity, and their divine destiny. This return is not just geographical, it is spiritual, and it is global. But what about the rest of us? Where do we fit into this narrative? If the prophecies are unfolding right before our eyes, how do we understand our role in the grand story that God is writing? The key to understanding this lies in embracing the broader implications of the regathering. Just as the Black Hebrew Israelites are stepping into the fullness of their identity, we are all called to do the same. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is not just a return to the past, it is a forward-moving action. It is a signal to all of us that God is moving his people toward a future that is full of promise and restoration. We are all part of this divine plan. Whether we are Jewish, Christian, or of any background, we are invited to embrace the fullness of God's promises. It is a call to recognize that we are all connected, not only through our faith, but through our shared journey of redemption. Let's look at the example of the Ethiopian Jews, the Beta Israel. For centuries, they held on to the belief that they were descendants of the ancient Israelites, living in isolation from the rest of the Jewish world. But when they were airlifted to Israel in 1991, their return became a living fulfillment of biblical prophecy. The Ethiopian Jews did not just return to a land, they returned to their identity as God's chosen people. They embraced the promise of restoration, and by doing so, they became part of the larger, divine narrative that God had been writing for thousands of years. The story of the Ethiopian Jews is mirrored by the Black Hebrew Israelites. For centuries, they have lived under the shadow of enslavement, degradation, and loss. Yet, in this moment, they are waking up to their true identity and calling. It's a spiritual awakening, a realization that they are part of a much larger divine story, one that stretches back to the time of Abraham and spans across history, through suffering and into the hope of a future restoration. But this awakening does not come without challenges. As the Black Hebrew Israelites begin to reclaim their heritage, they face resistance, not just from those who oppose their beliefs, but from within their own communities. Some argue that their claims are not legitimate, that they cannot possibly be the true descendants of Israel. But when we look at the promises of God, we must remember that His ways are not our ways, and His timing is always perfect. His plan unfolds in ways that we cannot always see, but His promises are never broken. This is where we can draw lessons from the Bible. Throughout the Scriptures, God's people were challenged, tested, and persecuted. But every time they were knocked down, they were lifted up again by God's strength and grace. The journey of the Black Hebrew Israelites is no different. They may face opposition, but they are also called to rise up and reclaim what was taken from them. In doing so, they are not just fulfilling God's promise to their ancestors, they are stepping into the fullness of God's plan for the future. As we reflect on the regathering of Israel, we must also look at the role of nations in these prophetic times. Iran, as part of the ancient empire of Persia, plays a significant role in the biblical prophecies of the last days. In Ezekiel 38, God speaks of a time when Persia, modern-day Iran, will rise up as part of a coalition of nations that will come against Israel. This prophecy is being fulfilled today as Iran strengthens its influence in the Middle East and forms alliances with other nations that oppose Israel. But here's where it gets interesting. As we see these prophecies unfold in the political and geopolitical realms, we must also recognize the spiritual implications. The Bible tells us that the regathering of Israel is not just about physical restoration, it's about spiritual renewal. The Black Hebrew Israelites are not just returning to a land, they are returning to their spiritual inheritance. And as we witness this awakening, we too are called to awaken to the truth of our identity in Christ and the fullness of God's plan for our lives. The role of Iran in these prophecies serves as a reminder that God's sovereignty over history is absolute. The nations of the world may rise up and come against His people, but He will always remain in control. As we watch the events unfolding in the Middle East, let us remember that these are not just political maneuvers. They are part of God's divine plan, and we are all part of that plan. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is a powerful reminder that God is fulfilling His promises, and we are living in the days when those promises are coming to fruition. As they reconnect with their identity, their faith, and their divine purpose, they are showing us all what it means to truly step into the light of God's love and truth. This is not just a story of one group of people. It is the story of all of us, as we are all invited into God's eternal family. This awakening is not just about looking back at the past. It is about looking forward to the future. It is about embracing the fullness of God's promises, stepping into our identity, and walking in the light of His love. As we continue to watch the fulfillment of these prophecies unfold, let us keep our hearts open, our spirits receptive, and our faith strong. For in the end, we know that God's plan will prevail, and we will all be part of His divine restoration. As we come to the end of this video, I invite you to pause for a moment and reflect on the depth of what we've uncovered together. The story of the Black Hebrew Israelites is not merely one of rediscovery. It is a testament to God's unyielding promises and the fulfillment of prophecies that have echoed through time. It's a journey of awakening, healing, and most importantly, restoration. For centuries, this truth remained hidden, buried beneath layers of pain, suffering, and oppression. But now, as we witness the revival of identity, we are seeing the power of God's plan unfold in real time. This is not just a historical event. It is a spiritual awakening that has profound implications for all of humanity. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is a call to us all. It speaks to the deepest parts of our being, the parts that long for truth, for justice, for recognition of who we truly are in the eyes of God. As we see them reconnect with their identity as the descendants of Israel, we are reminded that we too are part of God's greater story. Just as they are returning to their roots, so too are we all called to return to the truth of who we are in Christ. When we see these prophecies unfold, we are witnessing a reminder of God's faithfulness. He has not forgotten his people. His promises are as true today as they were thousands of years ago. The Bible tells us that in the last days, God will regather his people from the four corners of the earth. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is one piece of that divine regathering. It is not a coincidence. It is a fulfillment of the divine plan that God set into motion long ago. And as they reclaim their identity and their heritage, they are showing us the way forward, not just as individuals, but as a people united in Christ, bound together by his eternal promises. But this journey is not just theirs, it's ours too. The awakening of the Black Hebrew Israelites is a call for all of us to awaken to the truth of our own divine identity. It's a reminder that no matter how far we have strayed, no matter how much we have suffered, God has never abandoned us. His plan is still unfolding, and we are all part of it. Whether we are descendants of the ancient Israelites, part of the global diaspora, or simply believers in the faith, we are all invited to embrace the fullness of God's love and purpose for our lives. As we move forward, we must recognize that the Black Hebrew Israelites are not just reclaiming their past, they are shaping their future. They are stepping into the promises that God made to their ancestors, and in doing so, they are bringing healing not just to themselves, but to the world around them. Their return to identity is a powerful example of what it means to trust in God's promises, to embrace the fullness of our calling, and to walk in the light of his truth. As we close, I want to remind you that this journey of awakening is ongoing. The Black Hebrew Israelites are not the only ones being called to return. All of us, no matter where we are in the world, are part of this divine story. We are all invited to awaken to our true identity, to embrace the fullness of God's love, and to step into the destiny that he has prepared for us. Whether we are returning to our roots, reconnecting with our faith, or simply seeking the truth, this is a time of restoration, renewal, and divine purpose. If this video has touched your heart, if it has inspired you to dig deeper into your own faith or to learn more about the profound truths of God's promises, I invite you to support the work we're doing here. Every like, every comment, and every subscription helps us continue to share the message of hope, healing, and restoration. Your support is more than just a gesture. It is a way for us to continue this journey together, shining the light of truth and love in a world that desperately needs it. If you believe this message has brought you closer to understanding the power of God's promises, or if it has helped you find peace in the midst of struggle, I ask you to consider supporting this mission. Your energy, your belief in this journey makes all the difference. The work we are doing here is not just about sharing knowledge, it's about spreading healing, love, and divine truth. Together, we can continue to uncover the mysteries of God's plan and walk in the light of his love. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of this journey. Your support, your prayers, and your belief in the message we are sharing mean the world to me. Let's continue to walk this path together, embracing the fullness of God's promises and shining his light in a world that needs it more than ever. Your presence here makes all the difference, and I am forever grateful for it. Let us continue to move forward in faith, in unity, and in the love of Christ.